Chair Schmidt, you may begin.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Welcome to the April 25th, 2022 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all in attendance today, please note that the Planning Commission meeting is being held using Zoom webinar format, so you will see that the Planning Commissioners and staff are panelists. Please note that there are several ways to submit comments during this meeting. You may raise your hand in Zoom by clicking on the raised hand button located at the bottom of your screen. Members of the public who are participating in the Zoom webinar by phone can dial *9 to raise a hand. You may also send your comments in by email to publiccomment@burlingame.org. Staff will be monitoring emails submitted during the meeting, which will be read at the appropriate time. The length of the emailed comment should be commensurate with the 3 minutes customarily allowed for verbal comments. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, I will ask you to raise your hand when your agenda item is up for discussion so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. We ask that you also turn on your video at that time so that we can have more clear communication, simulating the experience we would have if we were meeting in person. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and will be uploaded to the city's website after the meeting. Moving on to item number 2, roll call. Let the record note that all commissioners are present, current commissioners, and we would like to welcome our newest commissioner, Sean Lowenthal. And our other new commissioner is not here tonight, Chris Haran. His first meeting will be on May 9th.
Great, thank you, Chair. We'll now move on to the rotation of officers. This evening, we'll be rotating Planning Commission officers for this coming year. First, we want to thank Commissioner Chair Schmidt for being chair this past year, outgoing Commissioner Loftus as vice chair, and Commissioner Gall as secretary. For this coming year, and beginning with tonight's meeting moving forward, Commissioner Michael Gall will be chair, Commissioner Jennifer Pfaff will be vice chair, and Commissioner Sean Lowenthal will be secretary. So I will now hand it over to Chair Gall.
Thank you, Ruben. There's no music, though.
It's coming.
All right. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the next upcoming year. This is going to be an adventure for all of us, I'm afraid. But we're going to move on to agenda item number 3, the approval of the minutes. We have meeting minutes to review and approve this evening from the March 14th and March 28th regular Planning Commission meeting. Are there any comments, changes, or discussions regarding the minutes?
Chair Gall, just a note that Commissioner Lowenthal, and Ruben, correct me if I'm wrong, but he should probably recuse from these minutes just because he wasn't a commissioner at the time.
Yep.
Yes, I think that's correct. Yep.
Okay, great. So for this one, Commissioner Lowenthal, if you could just stop your video, you don't have to get off at all. But when you recuse, you'll just stop your video for a bit. Thank you very much. And back to you, Chair. Sorry about that.
Thank you. I was also not present at the March 28th meeting, but I have reviewed the meeting minutes and feel comfortable voting on them. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should also clarify that I was not present at the March 28th meeting, but I have watched the video and read the minutes and caught up.
Okay. So do we have any changes or further discussion on the minutes? No, then can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the March 14th, 2022 and March 28th, 2022 meeting minutes.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Camarado and seconded by Commissioner Pfaff. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camarado.
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt. You're muted. We couldn't hear you.
Aye, you're right. I'm usually not muted.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Say.
Aye.
Vice Chair Pfaff.
Aye.
Chair Gall.
Aye. Okay, the motion passes 5-0-1-1. That moves us on to agenda item number 4, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes from staff.
And do we have any recusals from any of the commissioners?
I'll need to recuse myself as I was not at that meeting.
Oh, this is,
Sorry, Commissioner Lowenthal, this is asking for just recusals for any projects on tonight's agenda. I don't think you need to recuse since you do not live within 500 feet of any of these projects. So you may participate in tonight's discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with no changes to the agenda, we'll move on to item number 5, public comments, non-agenda. Members of the public may speak about any item not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for future planning commission agenda meetings may do so during the public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the commission from acting on any matter that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Please speak clearly into the microphone. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on any item that is not on our agenda tonight?
I don't see any hands raised, and there were no public comments for non-agenda items.
I've been seeing none. We'll move on to the next item, which is agenda item number 6, study items, which we have 0. Brings us to 7, consent calendar, which we have no items. And then we go on to regular action, which there are no regular action items. This is easy. I don't know why I got so nervous. Item 9, design review study. Now we have something to talk about. Okay. Let's see. We're going to start with agenda item 9A, 320 Bloomfield. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. Oops, hang on. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? No, then let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review for a new 2-story single unit dwelling and detached garage at 320 Bloomfield Road, zoned R1. The project proposes a total floor area of 2,713 square feet, where 2,760 square feet is the maximum allowed. The new dwelling would contain 4 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces, one of which must be covered, are required for a 4-bedroom house. The new detached garage provides the required covered parking for the 4-bedroom house, and 1 uncovered space is provided in the driveway. All other zoning code requirements have been met. Staff would note that this project includes an attached ADU that is within the new dwelling. Review of the ADU application is administrative only and is not reviewed by the Planning Commission. Staff has determined that the ADU complies with the regulations. That concludes a summary of my staff report. Do you have any questions for staff?
Thank you, Ruben. Are there any questions of staff? No? And then I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
All right, I am bringing them in now, but it might take there's usually a delay. So.
Can you hear us?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, we're Todd and Kathy Lindstrom, and wanted to start by thanking you for your time. It's exciting that we made it this far in the process, and we're excited to hear your input. We've been working on these plans for a long time now, and we simply are happy to be here. I think that's pretty much all we can think of at this moment to state.
Hi, yeah, I am the project applicant. That was Todd and Kathy Lindstrom, the owners there. And yeah, again, thank you for having us. Should I go ahead and just do a quick description of the project for you guys?
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'll keep it pretty brief. We are, building this house on a similar footprint to the existing house. because the owners really like their existing home, especially the two courtyards. There's one in the front facing Bloomfield and another one sort of in the rear corner of the house towards the southeast. And we're calling Bloomfield kind of north-south, even though, you know, it's kind of at a 45-degree angle. But so yeah, so we're calling the Bloomfield elevation west, the front elevation you're looking at there. And then the long side yard or rear elevation, it's all a little confusing, but that we're calling east. And yeah, so basically we really like the existing house. We think it works well on the site, and it helps us accomplish some of the goals that Todd and Kathy set out for the project. You know, the good thing about having these two courtyards is it lets us have a very slim, sort of slender house. It's not a big box plopped down from property line to property line. And so if you cut a section pretty much through any room in the house, it has windows on both sides, or you know, French doors on both sides to let the breeze through and to let a lot of daylight into the building. Yeah, and so we, you know, as you can tell, we did kind of a pared back, not a lot of decorative elements on the outside of the house, except what is necessary for the building. But we are using really high quality materials that we think, you know, in themselves will add a lot of beauty to the building. I mean, as you see it from the street, as you approach it, I think you'll be able to feel a lot of that high quality natural materials, the wood, the stucco, you know, you'll kind of, things are what they look at. Nothing is sort of applique on there. And in addition to that, there's a lot of relief on the facades. You know, it's not just one big flat surface. And the sort of the relief on the building is very representative of what's going on inside the building. There's no, you know, tacked on elements to make it look like there's relief there. It's actually the program of the building. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I'd love to open it up to conversation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have. I'm much more of a dialogue person than a monologue person. So please ask me questions. I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I do, Jennifer. I'm sorry, I can't find my little hand thingamabob. So it seems to be.
You've got the floor.
Sorry, defunct. I'm very sorry. Thank you for a really nice, very complete and neat looking renderings and a package. It looks great. I mean, the package looks great. I do have some questions about, before we do comments, I have questions about your plate heights. I'm not an architect, so I want to make sure I'm reading this right, because sometimes they vary depending on where the measurement was taken. So I wanted to ask, what is the first floor plate height and what is the second floor plate height, if I may?
Oh, it should be on. Let's see. The plate height, or I measured to the finished floor,
or I guess that's
for level 2, and then the plate height. So
yeah,
from the ground level finished floor to the second floor, it's 10'6". That's with a 12-inch floor assembly there. And then to the second floor plate height, it's 9 feet above the finished floor.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask the, I think it's the ADU or it's JDU, whatever they're called, and the kitchen, the height of the, well, I'm just going to say the visual height of the stucco. I know it's a wall that is, you know,
right
underneath the patio.
So that is from the.
And on that, correct me if I'm wrong, planning manager here, and those are going to be administratively looked at. So it's not something we do want to get into conversation about today. It's a little bit outside the purview of the planning commission for the ADUs.
Even if it's on the building and it's actually attached to the building.
Yes,
That's correct. Yeah.
So, but the kitchen is not an ADU. So the one on the right is a kitchen. The one, if I'm looking at, I'm sorry, if I'm not understanding it, then correct me. But the one that is seen from Bloomfield, the closest section of the building next to the garage, I thought that is a kitchen and it has a balcony upstairs, right?
Mm.
So that we can talk about.
Yes, anything that has to do with the main dwelling,
Right.
as it relates to the exterior of the building, yes, you can comment on that.
Yeah, so that is, I'm basically calling the floor on that exterior patio, for the purposes of this conversation, same as level 2. And then there's a 3-foot parapet that extends above that.
Okay, so it's 10'6" plus 3. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's 13.5 feet. So what one would see from the looking right on it at the sidewalk, it's 13 feet 6 inches, 13.5 feet.
Yeah,
And you have matched the left-hand side, but we're not allowed to talk about the left-hand side.
Correct.
hypothetically.
That,
Right.
yeah, the left-hand side is the ADU, right? You can't speak to that. The right-hand side is the kitchen for the main dwelling. You can comment on that, correct?
But the ADU, I'm sorry to go on and on about this, but the ADU is attached to the building on the left-hand side.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
connected.
JD, it's a JD, whatever you call them. Junior.
ADU.
All right, thank you. That's enough with me. Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the applicant? Commissioner Say.
Yes, thank you. Let's see, I do have a few questions. What is the size of the balcony outside of the master bedroom, I think it is? The one that's facing the street, facing.
Did you guys so you received the full set of plans, right?
Yes.
Okay. It should be on the second floor plan, but let me open up the file.
I see some plants, but I don't see any dimensions.
Oh, I'm sorry if I left those off of there. Hold on 1 second. Oh, you're right. Hold on 1 second. Let me just open up the drawing file quickly here. So that is 8 feet wide. The one over the ADU is 8 feet by 12 feet. And the other one is 11 by 13.5.
Thank you. And let's see, in one of your renderings, you show something at the front courtyard on the ground level that is, or maybe it's showing in the elevation too. We just can't tell because it's flat, but I'm just wondering, is that a covered veranda? That's let's see, I think it's the very last page of the set. Southwest perspective.
Yes, that is, if you look at the first, what's for you guys, the first page, A8.
A8.
So the first page on the digital file that was sent out, but it's A8 in the set.
Okay.
On the bottom right-hand corner, you can see, or on the bottom of that sheet, you can see photographs that are supposed to kind of show material quality.
Uh-huh.
On the far right-hand corner there, you see that it's a retractable cloth shade structure.
Okay, so retractable awning type. Okay. And how is that categorized? Does that calculate towards lot coverage?
It does
No.
not.
Or is it
I had
exemption?
this conversation with my planner.
Yeah, it
I'm
would not
sorry.
count. It would not count because it's retractable and it's not a solid structure.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you. And then, so I don't know if you intended to do this and, but in the garage, you have your bifold doors swinging into the garage, which theoretically would prevent one from parking in there. But I noticed you had the bifold swinging out on the house. So, I mean, I don't know if building said anything about it, but I don't think you're supposed to block your parking in the garage, but that's a building issue. I'm just wondering if you had intended on that, because if it's going to be swinging out, then it, might affect your use of your courtyard outside. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the way that the car would get in and out, obviously. So I don't think, if you're in the process of pulling a car into the garage, then obviously you would have those closed. But if you didn't, then you wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, you would smash into the bifold doors if they were open
Right,
and you were trying to
right.
park the car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a building department issue because I thought that wasn't allowed. But I wasn't sure if you meant to swing it out. And
Yeah, no, they're meant to be in swinging just so that when they are open, if there is no car in the garage and the owners choose to open that up, then those doors won't be sticking into the middle of the courtyard.
okay, I see. And plate height was asked already. Okay, I think that answers my questions. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Camerado?
Okay, thank you, Chair Gall. Can you please tell me what kind of windows you're planning on using?
What brand?
Please. Yes, please.
Oh, we haven't decided on a brand yet.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Thank you. So on the balconies, the dimensions you gave would lead me to believe that you just gave me the standable area.
Correct.
So are the planters fixed planters or are they? Because it would seem to me if they're not fixed planters, then that square footage would be bigger than what you are suggesting.
Yeah, I had this conversation with the planner who I'm working with on this project, and we discussed that, and it's still open for debate. However, what we agreed to is that the railing that divides the occupiable area from the planting area is permanently fixed, and so that that's sort of it's not movable, basically. So you'd have to like climb over it into the planting area. The only reason I would be a little wary of, constructing planters sort of as part of the structure is it's kind of a waterproofing liability, I guess is what I would call it.
I agree. They're large planters and they're on a second floor, and I think it presents a risk. But it also, if they're removable, it means that the square footage on those balconies are larger than what's being represented, which I'm not sure if we even allow that much square footage as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. But those planters aren't, I think in terms of actually using those spaces, getting rid of the planting and just having more like blank space where nobody's going to hang out isn't really like something that the clients are really eager to do. You know, it's those planters serve purposes for the resident, you know, for the residents of the house. So I don't see a lot of motivation to like remove them. You know, it's kind of what makes the space nice in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions also. Following up, in the staff report, the windows are listed as wood. Is that the intention for them to be like painted wood windows, or would they be clad wood windows?
They'd be clad wood windows, and yeah, no paint, like natural finish, like what's behind you.
Okay, and the same with the wood. I mean, same with the doors.
Yeah, ideally. I mean, right, we have to work out all the details, but that's the design intent.
Okay, just as a follow-up comment on Commissioner Say's questions about the bifold doors, if I'm not mistaken, I install a lot of those bifold doors, and I don't know any of the manufacturers that they fold in. They typically fold out.
Oh, okay.
Might want to look into that because that is a concern with the parking space. The roof is standing seam metal roof, and although we don't get into colors, do you have a metal color for that roof?
Again, I would look at that sheet A8. That image I put on there was the closest thing we could find to. It's pretty. I mean, I'm not great with color, but as far as my eyes can see, it's pretty similar to renderings. But it's sort of it's like a light gray, preferably like it actually looks like the material and doesn't, you know, have some thick coat of paint on it.
The only reason I ask is the question had been brought up before about some of the crazy colors that metal roofs can come in, and we're pretty much okay with anything as long as it's not Dodger blue. So
yeah,
as long as you follow that, you're okay.
Yeah, we want to go with a light color and preferably a finish that actually looks like metal, not too shiny, but something that, you know, won't absorb too much heat.
Okay. And back to Commissioner Vice Chair Pfaff's question about the rail height. The rail height would be 42 inches, in fact, would it not?
For the parapet?
Well, for the rail height at the deck.
Yeah, you know, that's a question I've been going back and forth on. I thought for residential 36 was adequate. Is that?
It used to be, but my experience in the last couple of years has been 42. The point I'm getting at is that will just increase that wall height a little bit more, and that was Vice Chair Pfaff's concern. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ruben, but if the deck over the ADU is not part of the ADU, that's actually part of the residence. So that would be something that we could comment on. Am I?
Yes, right.
Okay.
And it also counts in their lot coverage as well, because it's not part of the ADU, so it's not exempt.
Okay.
But yes, you can comment on that.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions that I had. Are there any further questions for the applicant? Okay, then I believe.
Chair Gall, we have Commissioner Lowenthal who had his hand raised.
I'm sorry.
Hey, no problem. Just one question on the proposed east elevation where your wall changes from a stucco and wood mixture to all stucco. Is that merely just for privacy?
Yes, that is, that's kind of a blind wall with the neighbor's garage.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it from the commission? Then I am going to open, I'm sorry, then do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item, or were any comments received through email or Zoom chat?
So I don't see any hands raised, Chair Gall, but I do have an email that was submitted. This was also submitted directly to the commissioners, but because it was submitted to public comment, I will also go ahead and read it for the record. This is from Micah Lewis Krause. My name is Micah Lewis Krause, and I currently reside at 321 Bloomfield Road, directly across the street from the planned project at 320 Bloomfield Road. My wife and I fully support this project. The proposed design exhibits an appreciation for the neighborhood aesthetic, along with an elegant and simplistic modern touch. In addition, Todd and Kathy Lindstrom are the ideal neighbors. From the day we moved in, to town in late 2018. They've been warm and welcoming, and they are one of the main reasons why we love living in Oak Grove Manor. We wish them the best of luck moving forward, and they also left their information if you need to contact them for any reason. That was the only public comment we received on this project.
Okay, thank you. Then I am going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have any comments? Commissioner Pfaff? Vice Chair Pfaff, sorry.
Again, I apologize that I cannot locate my tools, but thank you very much. I'm going to keep my comments that all have the same theme mainly. I think it's nicely done. I do think the entire thing could benefit from being pulled down at least 6 inches on the plate heights, plural. And regarding, because it is a corner, it's quite prominent. I think you've done a really good job, but because it's a corner, it is over prominent. There's not a lot of landscaping even possible on that corner, just because there's not much room. But I particularly am bothered by the height of the I'm going to just call it the roof above the balconies, above the left ADU, the right kitchen. I think they look just almost tomb-like, and again, quite prominent, that too prominent. I don't think it's benefiting the house. And I personally think if you want that privacy for the balcony, and even for interest, I think it would look better. Personally, you might want to look into some similar railing like what you have done. It's quite pretty on your, I guess that's like a, what do they call those? Romeo or Juliet railing in front of that second floor. I guess that's bedroom, I don't know. That kind of railing that you could kind of, start with a stucco and then go down and use your railing across, and it could be quite lovely and look less impactful and less massive. That's what I think. For me, this looks it's just too much the same on both sides, in my opinion. And those are my main comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Camerado.
I agree with Vice Chair Pfaff. I felt like the house was just a little bit too heavy, top heavy. I felt like I'm a little bit concerned about the size of the balconies. For me, I really think that we need to keep those down to a minimum. I think we have to consider the neighbors and just the view from the front of the street and the sides. So the size of those balconies, and hearing from the applicant that about the planners and not being fixed, allowing it to be possibly larger, that really concerns me. I also feel that there's a little bit of my concern is about the size of the windows and the style of the windows. It feels very linear, which also then I think creates this grand, making the house feel taller than maybe it is, and perhaps bringing the width of those windows out more and bringing the scale down and the length down a little bit might give it a little bit more of a not so massive home. I'm not opposed to the style of the home, but I am concerned about the height, the balconies, and the windows.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmidt.
Thank you. I'd like to say it's a very nice package. You guys have put together a complete package, and I appreciate that. And it's given us a lot to look at and be able to talk about. So I really do appreciate that. I'm struggling a little bit with height and scale. You're trying to leverage the lot the best you can, and I get it, but it's making, that back wall that faces your neighbor is a 2-story monster with not a lot of relief into it. So I actually don't see the relief outside of the ADU and the kitchen pop out. otherwise it's actually a very tall, a tall box. I also think that, you know, there's no overhangs. It's hard to tell what, you know, I'm not suspecting that those are actually deep inset windows that create relief. So it really does actually seem flat to me. The balconies, I think that they're too big. I don't think that we've been looking at balconies a lot lately, and they intrude on the neighbors. And so we've not been very approving of balconies. So again, I think it's a great package, but I'm concerned about how much is being put in. There's a lot going on here, a lot of square footage, and then a lot above ground. Just a little concerned. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Say?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I also want to reiterate the nice package that you put together. So thank you for that presentation. And there is a lot to look at. I was getting myself confused between all the different elevation views. But I agree with my fellow commissioners on the points that have been made about the overall height of the structure, the relative lack of articulation around the building, which can cast some, strong shadow lines depending on the time of the day against some areas that you might want to enjoy using outdoors. I wonder if enough attention was paid to how one might experience the yard spaces, the various courtyards with such a tall, flat elevation against it. It can feel, I feel like the human scale is a bit lost because of the relative flatness of some of these elevations with the lack of this articulation between the two floors. And it, may not be as enjoyable to use. I know that the family would like to utilize the yard and enjoy aspects of their courtyards that are presently there. Of course, that's a one-story home that you have now. And so just think about how the second story massing is affecting your potential use of the yards and how you might feel. It could feel very hollow and a bit sterile from what I can tell right now, without some more relief and a reduction in overall height. And I know we're not supposed to really talk about color of the roof. I am worried about the light gray color looking like it can be an aluminum type look. And in the middle of, it's a corner lot. It's going to be very visible. And am concerned that that color may not be what you're trying to pull together for a warm, inviting home. From what I can tell, the other colors and materials that you're using. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to make my comments.
Thank you. I just have a couple of comments to close. Specifically about the balconies and the size of them. If I'm not mistaken, I think we're limiting the usable space on balconies to about 100 square feet maximum.
That is starting with adoption of the new code. This project was submitted under the previous zoning code, so there's no limit in the code. But certainly the commission in the past has commented on size of decks in proximity to neighboring properties and with respect to privacy issues.
Well, with that in mind, that gets me really to my point is this doesn't necessarily have proximity to neighboring properties. Both balconies are really on Bloomfield. However, I am concerned about the size of the one over the kitchen in the regular house. But I think that that could be mitigated by adding additional planning on the Bloomfield side. And I think that would work on both balconies. It would provide you some privacy. It would reduce the size of the deck and it might solve the problem. Again, it would be another fixed rail, but I don't think you really want to have a balcony out onto Bloomfield, but you could reduce them that way. I agree with most of the comments that have been made. And I had the same thought on the proposed east elevation or the back wall. It is a bit stark, but then when I visited the site and I saw the house that's there that it's facing, I get it. So I'm not as concerned about that. That's one of those houses that I think this house will help hide that greenhouse that's behind it, I guess, if you will. So anyhow, that's my comments. Okay, so do we need a motion on this then?
Yes, we're looking for a motion and then a vote.
Would anyone like to make a motion? I'll make a motion. I would move this to the regular action calendar with the anticipation that some of these comments will be addressed by the applicant and we can have a better view of it at that time.
Second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Chair Gall and second by Commissioner Say. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fox. Oh, you're on mute. We need you for the record.
It was an aye.
I'm sorry, it's an I. My gosh, I found my tool line. Thank you. I.
Thanks. Chair Gall.
Aye. So
Okay.
the motion passes 6-0-1-0. All right. Then we'll move on to agenda item 9B, 209 Dwight Road. If you are the applicant, the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, then let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review for a first and second story addition to an existing single unit dwelling at 209 Dwight Road, zoned R1. The applicant is proposing to add a first and second story addition at the rear of the house. The project proposes a total floor area of 2,815 square feet, where 2,818 square feet is the maximum allowed. The existing house contains 2 bedrooms. With this application, the number of bedrooms would increase to 4. 2 parking spaces, one of which must be covered, are required. The existing attached garage provides the required covered parking for the house, and 1 uncovered space is provided in the driveway. All other zoning code requirements have been met. This concludes my staff report. Do you have any questions for staff?
Thank you, Ruben. Are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Say?
Yes, I just want to understand. So this entire house is going to be raised up 20 inches?
It appears so, and we can have the applicant confirm that. I'm sorry, Audrey, I didn't work on this project, so I don't know the details, but we can certainly ask the designer or architect confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Know that I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project? We're connected, Ruben?
Yep, Mr. Carbonell, you can go ahead. Mr. Carbonell, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
Very faintly.
How about now?
That's better.
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yes, so I'm the architect. Thank you so much for reviewing the project and hearing us today. And so in this project is so we're doing a rear yard addition, and we have been trying to work with the existing building, trying to keep the existing roof configuration, the existing finishes, but still providing a more square footage. And we're also replacing all the windows throughout, and doing some an interior remodel. And yes, we're going to be raising to answer the commissioner's question. Yes, we're proposing to raise the building 20 inches.
Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Say.
Yes, thank you. Can you share with us the reason for raising the house? Is it to create a crawl space underneath, or build a new foundation, or? Hello?
Hi, excuse me. Sorry, Vice Chair, I missed your question. Can you please ask me again?
Oh, yes. I was just wondering if you can share the reason for raising the entire building to 20 inches.
Primarily access to the rear yard from the lower floor, from the first floor. We have a very reduced ceiling height right now in the first floor. It's only 7 feet at the back of the house, and we wanted to provide access from the new den to the rear yard. That was a very important part of the program for my clients, Melissa and Glenn Kirk. And if we were not to, by raising the house, we avoid doing a substantial excavation. We would have to be excavating those 20 inches or more, not only for the house itself, but also at the rear yard, to provide the same relationship between the house and the rear yard. And that would provoke, that would bring about a lot of drainage challenges that are avoided by bringing up the house.
Okay, and I trust that. I mean, I don't know what it costs to raise a house, but I trust that you've evaluated that financially, that would be a better direction than some of the other options. I know this is not a design review question, but it's just curious about that height increase.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, what is your question about?
I was just saying, making a statement that I presume you've analyzed the financial costs of raising the house, and I don't know if there's any code implications with it related to lifting the whole thing off of its foundation and raising it.
Yeah, we've done some, my clients have done some initial outreach to the contractors who specialize in moving houses, and moving the house is definitely feasible.
Great. Okay, that's great. I had just some, it looks like just some drafting edits that I wanted to just see if you can address the next go around. On the existing front elevation, I think the existing window above the garage is wider than what is showing on the plans. Maybe 40% wider. So I just wanted to see if you could address that when you come back to us next time. And I think there's also like some a canopy of sorts, is it, that's over the window in the front, is it living room?
Over which window? The window that's in front of the above the garage?
To the left of the front door. I'm assuming it's a living room.
Yeah. That's not a canopy. That's actually like a board and batten that's applied on top of the stucco.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
I thought that there was also a roof overhang, but maybe that's not there. And then are you planning to replace the garage? Oh, I guess so, since you're raising the house, so it's going to be, you're forced to get a new garage door then. So
Yes.
that's a proposed new garage door. And then just to clarify, on your windows, the windows above the garage, they look like they are each window, let me see, looks like there's a pair of casements and then you have a transom up above each of them.
Correct.
And so overall, there are, like, if you consider the transom and the casement window vertically, so it's like 6 horizontal grids.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Vice Chair Pfaff, did you have your hand up?
Commissioner Say asked most of my questions, but I better ask a couple others about the windows. So am I to understand that the west elevation, you're removing pretty much all of the windows on the west elevation, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, and you've chosen this more, without too many divided lights, they're just plain. Is that what you've done?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I had a couple questions. So you're going to keep the stucco on the outside of the building and go over it with drive it. Is that correct?
Yes, that is that's what we're proposing. Correct.
So it's going to be a smooth finish then, or is it going to have the texture that's on there now?
It's going to be smoother than what we have there now.
Okay. Okay. And then is there a reason for removing the board and batten siding and the brick cladding at the base of the front of the building?
It was the design preference by the owners, and I thought it also make the building look the building look a little bit neater. Right now, it's I think it makes the facade a little bit more fussy than it needs to be.
Okay, and then is there a reason that you have the simulated true divided lights on the front, but it doesn't appear that they're anywhere else on the building?
We thought that it was a nice feature for the street facing facade, and in keeping with the character of the existing windows facing the street, we still have the divided lights. But for the rear yard and the side yards, I think that my clients and also preferred to have the just the unbroken lights for their windows.
Okay, and on the chimney, I get it, you're going to raise it up, so the fireplace is probably a brick fireplace, a wood burning one. Is there a reason not to put back a chimney of some sort there?
It's because we were going to be getting rid of the non-functional, like a wood burning fireplace that we have right now, and we were going to be putting in like a new
like a zero clearance fireplace,
gas burning fireplace. Which just not, I mean, as you know, they don't need a chimney. So so given that we need to take it out.
Okay.
For raising the house, and the new fireplace doesn't need it, we didn't introduce one.
Okay. All right, thank you. Commissioner Schmidt, I see you have your hand up. Oh, and you're on mute.
Yeah, I tried to hit the button, it didn't work. So I'm noticing that there isn't any landscape plans in here. And I'm assuming that the bushes that are actually in the front yard are going to get killed in the process of raising the house. So I'm thinking that you probably do need to do some significant landscaping, and it would be really good to have a plan for the next meeting, because we're going to need to have some questions about that.
Okay.
Commissioner Gall, you're on mute still. You'll get used to it.
All right. I think that's it for the questions from the commission. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak on this item? Or do we have any emails?
Yes, we did receive one email via the public comment email. I'll go ahead and read that. This is from Vincent McCarley at 504 Howard Avenue. Hello, I am an adjoining resident on the south side of the project. I have made a quick review of the submitted plans. My current concerns are related to the continuance or enhancement of privacy as potentially impacted by the proposed taller structure and facing windows. Also, it would be a good to get further clarification and impacts as to the proposed excavations, concrete wall, and construction disruptions. And again, that's from Vincent McCarley. And I don't see any hands raised in the public.
Okay, then with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have any comments? Vice Chair Pfaff.
Okay, I'll go. The first thing is very interesting that you're raising this house. There are actually quite a few homes in our neighborhood that were either moved here and then raised or raised on plots where they were on plots. And so it's the 20 inches, and that's actually not bad. But what is happening is something actually Commissioner Schmidt alluded to in a way. It changes, you're not changing in effect the cutout of the window nor the position, but you're changing the proportion of the home. And you're also exasperating it by removing the wood board and batten. So the entire proportion is changing. And so it looks, to me, it looks as if the windows in the front are way too close to your roofs. And they look busy because you've changed the organization of the panes, the grids. So I think I'm trying to think of, we're not supposed to have a solution for you, but I would look at this again, particularly simplifying the windows. I think you need to look at all your windows, because you're putting in new windows. You might as well look at the ones all around the home and decide on a unifying style that ties them all together, because it's just, to me, completely breaking apart. Also, the fact that you removed the brick cladding, yeah, it's true. It simplifies it, but I'm not really sure that's an advantage in this case, because again, the proportions looks really off to me. And I think you could do some maybe tricks by putting in some big bushes, or you have a beautiful camellia there. It's probably going to be dead by the time you're finished, because that's what happens when people work around a foundation that close. It's just beautiful, but be thinking about some nice evergreens that grow kind of medium range, that kind of can help mitigate this proportion problem. Also, the garage door to me looks like it has too much importance, and it's taking away from your home. I'm sure the others have things to say, but that's just to start off with. Those are my initial comments. I think it's great you're trying to reuse the home, but you need to also then work with what has happened to the proportions. It becomes disproportionate. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmidt?
Yeah. I'm concerned that it actually is getting simpler and smoother and really becoming less interesting. And so I think it's kind of missing the design portion here. And there's not a whole lot of overhang. There's not a lot of depth to it. So I'm just struggling on how this is going to hold together. And then when you go to the other elevations where there isn't any window interest either, it's becoming a flat box. And the texture of the stucco was one of the things I actually liked about the house. And that's going to become smoother when you when you redo the bottom area and try and flush it out. Because I do agree it would be hard to actually do the stucco below and get it to match. So I'm just not feeling like it's getting better. And I think that the other piece, as I alluded to earlier, is there needs to be some significant thought about landscape. Because given the amount of work that's going to be done around this house, I think everything within a few feet is going to get killed. So you need to have a start over plan, not just say I'm keeping what I have, like other remodels. So, and I think that the base, the excavating in the basement is going to be a water problem. I don't know what the water table is there, but anybody with a basement has got a flooding problem. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Commissioner Camerado?
Yeah, so I thought that if we could do a color rendition of what the exterior would look like, perhaps that might help with some of these dimensions to get a real sense of what's going on there. I agree with Vice Chair Pfaff that there's just some disconnect here. And I think that if you did a color rendition or an artist rendition here, it might help with tying it all in. My other question is exterior lights. I don't see any lights on the exterior by the garage or by the front door. And it would be nice to understand where the exterior lights are going to go and what kind of lights they're going to be. I agree with Vice Chair Pfaff. I mean, I felt like when I looked at this, that the board and batten that was on the original existing east elevation, having it removed felt like a real loss. I would love to see that. I would love to see that back into the project because I feel like it gives it some real charm. They can change it up a little bit and do some interesting features, but I felt like that was a loss, and agree with Commissioner Schmidt on the landscaping. I mean, we don't have any landscaping plans really to go by, and like to understand what's happening with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I have similar comments. The bricks being removed and the board and batten being removed really simplifies this down to a point where I think it loses too much. So I think that something needs to be done in those areas just to bring back some of that architectural detail. Fireplaces have always been one of my touch points, and you can build a chimney back. It doesn't have to be a brick chimney, but it's a nice architectural element. It breaks up that side of the building, and it would give you something interesting from the street level as opposed to just the wall cap that would be on a zero clearance fireplace. I agree with the comment about the window grids. I think there needs to be some continuity there with the front and the sides of the house to tie this whole thing together. Just because the whole thing has become very, very plain, very vanilla. And before you get too far, I've done this kind of work before, and I would talk to an engineer. This can become very expensive very quickly because it's not always just raising the house and sticking a little pony wall in there. A lot of times your foundation isn't going to handle what you want to do. So before you get too far into it, I would have a serious talk with a structural engineer and a contractor who's familiar with this type of work. Okay,
through the chair, if I may interrupt,
yes.
We did have a hand raised in the attendees just after you closed the public hearing. So there may be someone who just didn't get quite in there fast enough. If you do decide to open up the public hearing, that will allow also anybody else to speak, including the applicant. So I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I will reopen the public hearing.
Okay, let me bring that person in. Okay, Amir Kazemi, if you want to unmute yourself and speak, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Amir Kazemi. I'm actually a homeowner on 500 Howard. I was just, wanted to voice my concern around the height of the home. So I didn't see the renderings because we flashed by it too quickly. But the backyard of my home essentially would be, I was just concerned around kind of like the privacy as we've raised the home over my yard and some parts of my home as well. So otherwise, we're super supportive of the project, but would love to see more of those details.
Okay, thank you. I see Vice Chair Pfaff has her hand raised again.
We also have, I'm sorry, we have the applicant also who wishes to speak. So just let me know which order you'd like to take that.
I'll go with Vice Chair Pfaff first, please.
It's just brief. I'm sorry, because I did not address the neighbor. I don't know if it's the same person, but I actually think I'm comparing the existing west elevation windows and the proposed, and they look very. All of the openings look very large to me. All of them. Forget the whole patterning, which is also a problem, but they look out of proportion large, like we've seen a lot of times. So I did want to make sure they look at that. I think that they could come down quite a bit, and it's not really that high of a building, I don't believe. That makes a person feel any better. It really is. I don't think it is well within the allowable, and it's only going up 20 inches. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. And do we have someone in the public, Ruben?
It's the applicant or the homeowner, excuse me, the homeowner. So it's still under open public hearing. If you like, I can bring them in.
Yes, please.
They may want to add something. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, talking about the structural aspects of lifting the house and stuff like that. I've already gone over with the engineers and stuff. I do that a lot for a living.
Okay.
One of the other things too, I don't know, Jorge talked about the height and stuff in the backyard, creating basically a big catch basin in the back. We couldn't get the water out. Also, the garage door at the moment, it's like 7 foot high. And when you put the new garage doors in, they take up about 10 inches. So we'd only have like, a little bit less than 6 foot at the head of the garage when we went in there. So that was another reason we wanted to go up, because we couldn't, when the door, when it rotates back, there wasn't a lot of space there at all. It was only going to be like 6 foot head height. So that was another reason we wanted to maybe lift it up, But money-wise for us, it was lifting it and jacking it back down on the existing foundations. We did talk to structural engineers and guys who work within the city, and we're pretty confident about that,
Okay.
The grids and that, we both agree. I think we should put more grids all out the windows and stuff all the way through.
We'll definitely make those consistent. And for the landscaping, we work with a local company called Small Brown Landscape. She lives in Burlingame. I mean, we're going to have it trees and beautiful and absolutely not plain, and everything that you guys are saying. I work in design. It's going to be lovely. Like, I have no doubt that everyone won't be impressed when they drive by.
Okay, if you can get a developed landscape plan, that certainly would help us.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right. I see no other hands. Ruben, are there any others from the public that would like to speak?
I don't see any.
Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments?
But you took comments already.
I mean, okay, then I'm looking for a motion, I guess.
Okay, if I can find my raised hand, I have to do that? Yes, I will. I will make a motion to bring this back on action item, and with the understanding that the applicant address all of the issues we have brought up, in particular window issues, the plainness of it, revisit the elimination of some of these, the decorative aspect that kind of gave this charm before, to revisit that perhaps. Did I catch it all?
Add a landscape plan.
Yes, and of course, landscape plan.
Lighting.
Lighting, thank you. Anything else? Kind of try to figure out how to mitigate this proportion problem, which it's, and is that it?
Add a chimney.
Add a chimney and consider a sump pump or something else down there that might mitigate any flooding issues, because it is true that property is very close to the bay. I live in this neighborhood. I know it very well. So thank you. May I have a second?
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Pfaff, a second by Commissioner Say. Any discussion on the motion? No, but can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt, Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pfaff,
Aye.
Chair Gall.
Aye. So the motion passes 6-0-1 and is not appealable. Okay, that's we'll move on then to agenda item 9C, 1369 Columbus Avenue. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? I had a lengthy discussion with the neighbor to the left of the project and walked the block with him. Okay, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we have a staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review and special permits for a new 2-story single unit dwelling. The total proposed floor area would be 3,019 square feet, where 3,021 square feet is the maximum allowed. The applicant is requesting a special permit for building height, 33 feet 7 inches proposed, where 30 feet is the maximum allowed without approval of a special permit. Staff would note that the lot slopes upward from the front property line, with the finished floor proposed at 9 feet 6 inches above average top of curb. This project was submitted after adoption of the new zoning code, so there are 2 new special permit requests, including with this application, that you haven't yet seen. So this is the first out of the gates. The first is for the plate height dimension on the 2nd floor. Under the new code, it allows by right for a 9-foot plate height on the 1st floor and an 8-foot plate height on the 2nd floor. A special permit is required if you exceed these plate heights. So with this application, the applicant is requesting a special permit for a 9-foot plate height at the 2nd floor master bedroom located at the rear of the house. The remaining 2nd floor contains an 8-foot plate height. So the 9-foot plate height is over this flat portion at the rear of the house, where the remaining 2nd floor is at a lower 8-foot plate height. In order to minimize privacy impacts from 2nd floor decks, the new code requires a special permit for any 2nd floor deck, but it also limits it to 75 square feet in area. It also requires the deck to be set back 2 times the minimum required side setback. So in this case, the 2nd floor deck that's off the back of the house has to be set back at least 8 feet from the side property lines. And as proposed, it well exceeds that minimum requirement. With this application, a special permit is being requested for the 2nd floor deck. The proposed deck is 55 square feet in area. The project includes building a new detached accessory dwelling unit at the rear of the lot. Review of the ADU application is administrative only, and there's no review by the Planning Commission. Staff has reviewed the proposed ADU, and it complies with the ADU regulations. With regards to parking, there would be a total of 4 bedrooms in the proposed dwelling. No on-site parking is required for an ADU because it's located within 1/2 mile of public transit. In addition, the code says that when a garage is demolished for construction of an ADU, those covered parking spaces are not required to be replaced. Therefore, the proposed project has no covered parking and no covered parking is proposed. However, 1 uncovered space is required and it's provided in the driveway. That concludes my summary of the staff report. Do you have any questions for staff?
Thank you, Ruben. Are there any questions of staff? I have a question. How did that ever happen that you can scrape a lot and not put a garage back? I don't understand how that works.
Well, that came from state law when they passed the ADU law in 2020 in order to make it as easy as possible to build ADUs and to encourage housing. That's one of the incentives that they included, was that if a garage is replaced with an ADU, it does not have to be replaced with covered parking elsewhere on the property. The state law talks about covered spaces, not uncovered. So because an uncovered space is still required, we would still require that in this case. So the uncovered space is provided and that meets the minimum requirement. But as difficult as it is to understand that, no covered parking is required for the house nor for the ADU in this case because it's within 1/2 mile of public transit.
Okay, well, I'll hold my tongue. Any other questions of staff? Okay, then I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you'd like to add about your project?
Okay, I'm bringing them in now.
Hey everyone, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hey, this is Anuj Batra and this is my wife Mishti Kapoor. We are longtime residents of Burlingame looking to build our family home here. Thank you for your time. Looking forward to your feedback.
Hi, and I'm Rich Sargent. I'm the developer on the project along with James Chu. James will take any questions you have on the project. We're really excited to hear your feedback on this. We've been working on this for several months. We've asked for, as Ruben mentioned, several special permits, primarily the building height, because the lot slopes from 10 feet from back to front. So staying within the building height would be really restrictive of our project goals. And as Ruben mentioned on the 9-foot plate height, we've limited only for the master bedroom at the back of the house. And we feel that by doing a flat roof there, we've added to the architectural interest of the project. So we think we could meet the 8-foot plate there, but I think it's better for the project and for in meeting the design guidelines if we stay with the 9-foot plate. And then lastly, with the deck, we're well within the square foot requirements of what the special permit is, and more than meet the setback requirements. And I just one last comment. I completely agree with Chair Gall about the covered parking requirements. But that is the state law, and I think it's actually something that the commission has already considered on another project, and I believe it was passed. So just wanted to mention that, and we really look forward to your comments today.
Okay, Mr. Chu, did you want to add anything?
Yes, I actually wanted to talk about the parking. The law actually allowed us to convert the existing garage into ADU without providing any cover parking. So in other words, we can come in with a brand new single family home, 2-story with 5 bedroom, and propose a 2-car garage. But later on, we can legally convert the garage into ADU without design review and public hearings. Luckily, we do have a long driveway, along the right side of the proposed. So, as we all know, people hardly park their car in the garage and do use their driveway for parking. So that's the advantage I see compared to a previous project that the planning commissioner approved. They actually only proposed one parking stall, and there's no a driveway to accommodate additional parking spaces. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. And it is design review meeting, so I would love to hear comments from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Vice Chair Pfaff.
Yes, first questions. So I wanted to ask you, you're indicating there's going to be just one tree there on the side to remain. And it doesn't mention anything about that tree. What is the type, if you happen to know it? How tall is it? So that's one. I'll just keep on going. I'll just keep going. The second is there a reason why you chose a Mayton as the street tree? Because those, I've got them a lot of in my neighborhood, and they never seem to get over about 6 feet tall because they grow so slowly. That's the second question. If you are married to that, I appreciate that it's a evergreen, but just wondering about that evergreen. I'm trying to understand if you could explain the material change with, is it some kind of concrete or so? It looks like it's on the same plane. If I'm I'm not an architect. I'm understanding what you've drawn. It's not like it's a sort of a piece coming out like a, it seems to be on the same plane as every other material you have. So I just wanted an explanation of what that is and what it's meant to accomplish.
Sure. I apologize. Our landscape architect is not here tonight, so we will address your comment on the trees on the next go around. As far as the smooth concrete finishes, I guess we just try to justify, first of all, a different color, and that wall will be smooth, and the other could be, minor texture. So it's just to have a little difference in the wall finishes. That's all.
But did I understand correctly? It is the same
material.
Same material. So it is not coming out further or anything. It is on the same plane as the other material. It just goes just as a design change.
You mean on the front elevation?
Actually all over where I see it on the side, right? Yeah. It seems to be all over. Is that the same plane?
No, on the front, it's not on the same plane. If you look at sheet 8.3 on the main floor plan, there's a porch. So that is in front of the wall behind where the living room wall is.
Okay, so that piece is part of the porch, but then it continues.
I know. And on the right-hand side is on the same, where the fireplace extension is in line with the wall at the kitchen.
Okay.
And on the left is almost on the same plane.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes. On the elevations, I'm seeing what looks to be horizontal siding on several of the pop-outs on the second floor.
Yes.
Yet on the sides of each of those pop-outs, then it goes back to the stucco. Am I missing something? So, for example, on A4, on the front elevation, there's the siding, but then when I look at the side elevations, it's the stucco. So is the siding just on the front face?
Correct.
So how are you planning to do the material change there?
We'll mostly put a trim at the corner, which is not shown.
Okay. Okay. Then that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Say?
Yeah, James, can you describe to us what the design of this house is to you or your intentions?
Well, we want to come in with a modern design, which the homeowner really liked. And in the process of selecting the roof form, we felt maybe we should come in with the combination of flat and pitch roof, which that sort of style has been in the Burlingame for last few years. I mean, I'm not sure I can call it a modern farmhouse, but it does have some of the feature or architecture element to it. But
Okay, thank you. And then what is the finish? What is the material finish for the metal framing of the glass railings?
the metal railing with glass.
What's the metal? Is it what what color or what material?
We haven't selected the color. It most likely be black. We haven't selected the material yet, but I'm sure it's pretty standard these days for glass railing.
Yeah, I guess I was curious whether it was a brushed aluminum or stainless steel or.
Oh, I see.
Black.
Well, we could definitely clarify our next submittal.
And then your windows, let me see. Do we have the window information on the staff report? What type of windows?
There's only elevation. Aluminum clad wood.
Oh, aluminum clad wood. Okay.
Right. There's no two divided. That's
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Camarado.
Hi, James.
Hi, Sandy.
Can you tell me if you've been able to, and I haven't, I don't know how close this is, but have you spoken to the neighbors to the left at all?
Me, no, but perhaps I can let Rich or the owner respond to this.
So this is what my question is. The stairwell window, it would be nice to understand if that's impacting the neighbor on the left. And if it is, and I don't know that it is or it's not a deal killer, but maybe consider doing a frosted window there to give a little bit of privacy to your neighbors, if that's something that you would be okay with, or just at least take a look at that when you come back.
Yes, we definitely will look into it.
And then my other question is there a possibility of when you come back to do an artist kind of rendition or 3D imaging of this, so we can get a real sense of, for me, it really helps to have a sense of colors and kind of how things are all tying in together, if that's possible.
Yes, that will be fine.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. James, I had the same question as Commissioner Say about the design style. You know, there are a lot of houses on that block that have been either redone or completely rebuilt, and it's a very traditional looking block. So I'm having a little bit, I'm struggling with the design review criteria, specifically the compatibility of the architectural style with that of the existing character of the neighborhood. So you can't, I mean, I guess that's more of a comment than a question, but I'm just wondering if you can work on that a little bit more to try to make it blend in with some of the other houses. And to answer Commissioner Camarado's question, the neighbor to the left, and I did speak for probably a half hour out in front of the house, and he did have some concerns, and I believe he's in attendance tonight, but he did have some concerns about the windows and how they would affect his house. So I would encourage some interaction with that neighbor. Maybe if we could get on the site plan or on a modified site plan outline of that neighbor's house and the location of his windows in relation to the windows on this project.
Okay, well, I also want to just bring up the window size and location on the left elevation. I mean, I agree. The window at the stairwell is pretty huge. I mean, pretty big, but other windows are master bedrooms and also a laundry room and a bathroom, and the last window is for bedroom number 2. We always consider a smaller window facing the neighbors, but if we have all small window or no window, then the design will look very unattractive, in my opinion. But we definitely will look into the size of the staircase window, and also provide right side, our neighbor's window location as well, so we can see the comparison, as well as landscaping. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Commissioner Camarado, do you have another question?
Yeah, so James, I'm not suggesting that you reduce the size of that stairwell. I'm just suggesting maybe frost it to give it a little bit of privacy to the neighbors, because you're not going to put a window covering in the stairwell. You're going to do window coverings in bedrooms and bathrooms and laundry rooms. Hopefully you'll put some sort of window coverings on that, but the stairwell doesn't have it. And, and I think it gives a lot of detail to the home when you have these beautiful windows, but maybe frosting it might allow some privacy to the neighbor. So it's just if you could just look at that, that's something I would
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more hands raised. So do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item, or were there any comments received through email or Zoom chat? I think I see one hand raised in the public.
Let me bring that person in, and there were no other emails received. So. Okay, Betsy Murray, whenever you're ready, you may begin. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself, you may begin.
Thank you very much. It's not Betsy Murray, it's Michael Murray. I'm the neighbor to the left you've been discussing. I've only seen, for a very short period of time, the drawings, the plans of the house. And although our neighbors are lovely, lovely people, I must strenuously object to the style of the house. It doesn't at all fit in the traditional landscape of the houses on this or some of the other blocks. These metal roof farmhouse things are very particularly fashionable now, which I think is going to be a fad that's going to fade out quickly. I mean, nobody is going to be Howard Backen, it can only do it so well, and nobody else does it well at all. I don't like the design. I don't like the window that's going to faces right at our front door, our bedrooms upstairs, our living room, and our kitchen. I strenuously object to metal roofs in an urban setting and a suburban setting, because they not only reflect light, thank you, because they're aluminum or steel, but they also reflect heat. And I don't want added, in summer days, I don't want more heat directed to my house than the sun gives me already. I'm surprised at the lack of architectural detail on this. I see a little hardy siding over a glass handrail, which is incongruous, actually. You're either, it looks like an apartment house siding system that they did at Hanson down on Rollins Road, and a glass handrail looks like you're going into a bar. I think the whole thing is really needs to get redone. So that's where I am. I love our neighbors. I hate the house. I have more to say. Landscaping is a big concern, and unfortunately, we've been through this a couple of times in this block, and the guy comes in with a bulldozer, scrapes everything, and the race is on. So please reconsider, redesign it, make it comfortable for everybody on the block and in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, any discussions, comments on this project? Commissioner Schmidt.
Yeah. I don't really, the height doesn't bother me for the special permit. The plate height doesn't bother me, given that it's the master and it has a flat roof. And the pitched roofs, they look fine and everything. Where I'm struggling more is the 3D complexity of the lower portion of the building. There's a lot of ins and outs on this that I can see, but it's not really making me feel like it's compatible. It's really forcing me to question the compatibility, of the more modern shapes that are down below. So I think that the 3D piece, I'm not as worried about it being artist rendition, but just even 3D to be able to see the forms and see where things are going. Like I said, I'm not sure I'm understanding the siding on the ends of the pop outs, and then the stucco on the side. I think that's going to be a weird material transition that I'm not used to seeing. So I think just the compatibility thing is got me worried. I know that the team is strong and can do it. It's just I'm not seeing it in the package right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Say.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I too can see support for all the special permit applications on this project, and don't have any issues there. What I'm struggling with I think it's the overall design of this house, is that it doesn't know what it wants to be. There's so many materials on the various elevations that don't seem to make sense to me, why something might be on one face and not on another, in a kind of a traditional, like there's a traditional sense to the second story with the siding and the outriggers, but then the finishes don't wrap around to the other side. So then it's suddenly not traditional or transitional, and then I'm not sure about the glass railings mixed in with everything. It seems a little bit too much of a hybrid of materials and not a clean statement of what it wants to be. The other part I'm concerned about is kind of the overall heaviness of what I'm calling the moment frame kind of arch, the concrete arch that we see on the front and on the sides. Because we're on an uphill sloping property, and there's some fairly tall height to this first story, along with the increased height just to get to the finished floor from the, I guess, average grade, it accentuates again this particular element and the height. And I don't know if you necessarily need to accentuate the height. I think the height of the structure overall seems okay and acceptable. But I don't appreciate, I think, the overemphasis and the heaviness of what the moment frames are doing to the overall look of the house. So I'd like to, I mean, I agree this is a strong team, so this is not something obviously that would need any type of design consultant, but I think I just want a better clarity of what this house wants to be and a more cohesive look that makes sense on all four sides.
Thank you. Commissioner Camerado.
I agree completely with Commissioner Say, and I think the 3D rendering is where it's going to be for me. I want to be able to see it and touch it and feel it, and giving me that perspective will help. I feel like it's almost trying too hard. I think it's a house that could be very beautifully done, and the team is exceptional. So I have no doubt that they can do this. I just think it's just trying a little bit too hard, and it can be a little more simplified.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pfaff.
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree with what has been said. Commissioner Tsay took the words out of my mouth. This doesn't know what it wants to be. So I think it would be really good to decide on a few things that really are important and let the other stuff go, because it's just not going together for me either. And particularly these transitions, it could really look like a patchwork and just not well thought out. And I know the team can do it as well. I actually have a little bit of different opinion, but maybe I'm going to be outvoted. I think the whole thing could come down 6 inches. It's not much, but because it does not know what it wants to be, and it is a large home, in deference to those around it, I think it would be helpful. And I also would like to get back to I know that your landscape architect's not there, but I did want to make a couple of notations. You did say in the front that you have 2 Acer palm something. Anyway, that those can be as small as 10 feet tall. And so I wanted to request that you look at the one that is closer to 15 or 20, which is the Bloodgood, I think it is, for those 2 trees in the front and on your property. And on the street tree, I noticed there is a camellia already in place in front of probably the neighbor who spoke. And it's quite lovely. Those can grow much taller than the one that's there, but I think it's called the Queen Magnolia. And I think those, if you are amenable, those are on our street planting, our Burlingame tree list, and would fit in I believe they'd fit in the planter strip, and they would kind of help pull that block a little bit better together. And it is an evergreen. You need an evergreen for this, I believe. You need an evergreen for this house. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I would have to agree with just about everything that's been said so far. I don't think that this design is cohesive enough to know where it is going. But my main concern is the compatibility of the architectural style with that of the existing character of the neighborhood. Like I said, there are a lot of houses on that block that have been rebuilt. So the style of that neighborhood has already been developed and established. This isn't a street where they're all going to start getting knocked down. So I'm not sure that this style of house fits. I don't think it interfaces well. Again, going back to the design review criteria, I don't think it interfaces well with the structures on the adjacent properties. It's trying to stand by itself and make a statement, but I don't know what the statement is. I would agree that it could come down 6 inches. I mean, I think that it might even be better if all the roofs were flat. It might make the design a little bit more cohesive and not make it seem like such a large house. I get it, it's on an upslope lot. That's part of it. But and you know, in our design review criteria, we also have respect for the parking garage patterns in the neighborhood. And I know that our great politicians up in Sacramento feel that they know more than us about a lot of this stuff, but I would just, I can't, I mean, it's not anything that is going to stop the project in my mind, but I just cannot imagine that that is a good idea. So I don't know that I can support the project as it stands right now, but I think we've heard from everyone else. So do we have a motion by any of the commissioners?
I'll make a motion. I would say that we bring this back on regular action calendar. And I would say that I can make the findings for the special permits for the building height, the second floor plate height, and the second floor balcony. And ask the applicant to come back with the changes that we've proposed in our comments.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Camerado, second by Commissioner Schmidt. Any discussion on the motion? No? All right, then can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camerado?
Aye.
Commissioner Lowenthal?
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Aye.
Commissioner Say?
Aye.
Vice Chair Foth?
Aye.
Chair Gall?
Aye. The motion passes 601. And this is not appealable. Okay. With that, that closes out our design review study. We move on to agenda item 10, commissioners reports. Do we have anything to report? No? All right, then director's reports.
Sure. Let's see. From the last city council meeting, I don't have anything to report other than the extended meeting on virtually for another month or until the state says we do something different. And we have one FYI item at 1304 Mills Avenue. If any of you wish to pull that off for further discussion, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to pull 1304 Mills Avenue? No? Okay.
No, but I have a question for Ruben.
Sure.
About when we eventually go back to being in person, is there a possibility that the meetings would be held in a hybrid format? So if one might be traveling, but otherwise able to attend, like we've been doing these last 2 years, we could actually participate and be at the meeting, but just not personally be there in the room, but be on Zoom?
Yeah, my understanding is that they are working on establishing a hybrid model. So many cities, though, want it. There's a huge, or there's a pretty large backup in getting the equipment in place. We'll have to provide further details as far as whether commissioners can attend hybrid virtually or not, or is it mainly meant just for the public? We'll have to have further details from our city clerk and city manager on that. I don't know, Scott, if you know any of those details yet.
No, I'm not sure they're out there yet, just because we're still adapting with what the governor is allowing. So the governor is the one who's giving the permission essentially through the executive orders to do these meetings remote. So when it comes back, it's going to determine, or a lot will depend on whether or not the state law changes to adapt to allow remote meetings for commissioners or for city council members to be not physically present. So I think the first thing, you might hear it on the news first, and then we'll have to look at a policy internally for the city. But I think a lot of it's just going to come down to what the state allows us to do.
Yeah.
I have a question for Ruben too. Sorry, go ahead, Ruben.
I was going to say, it certainly is a benefit if you can do that, because it still allows you to participate as a commissioner and not be absent. So, but like Scott said, we'll have to wait and see what the direction is from the state, from the governor.
And I could see maybe having a policy, like Scott says, so that there's not an abuse of that policy or anything like that, but just for special circumstances.
Right.
Ruben, have we come up with any of the SB 9 criterias or anything like that? I think I had heard that maybe we had one project possibly before us, or have we come up with anything yet on how to handle that?
Well, the new code does provide direction in terms of square footage, lot coverage, those objective standards. We were going to work on something where we have some more detailed objective standards in terms of style. We'll be working on that, but with so many other things that are a higher priority, we at least have it in the code and limit it to its height and bulk and square footage. Anything that's an SB 9 project, by the way, would not come before you. So those have to be approved ministerially, so you would not see those projects. We've had some inquiries, maybe a handful of inquiries, but nothing serious, or nothing's been submitted through the building division for permits yet. And in some cases, the questions we get asked don't apply. Like, they have a property and they realize it's in an R2 zone already, so it doesn't apply, or they can't do what they want to do with SB 9. So, but we're still navigating through that. And hopefully, I know Richard Toronis' office has offered to help us with objective design standards and providing diagrams and renderings and that sort of thing. So we'll still keep Richard busy if we can with some of our stuff. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we are with that.
Can I ask it further about Commissioner Camarada and what she was referring to with these standards? So you're saying that we won't be able really to, it will be ministerial or whatever the word is.
Ministerial, yeah.
Ministerial. Aren't there some aspects, however, that would affect any lot anyway, like landscaping? Isn't there something, won't we be able to say, gee, you need to put up something, some hedge or something for, next to your neighbors, or that's also exempted? I'm not understanding.
Right. So yeah, so anything that's ministerial would not come before the planning commission for any type of review. So it would just be going through the building permit process. They do have to comply with landscape requirements that's established in our ordinance and in the municipal code in terms of number of trees or removal of trees and replacement of trees, but you would not be able to provide any direction with regards to landscaping.
Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous.
Yep.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Okay, again, I'm going to hold my tongue. So if that is the end of the discussion, I think that this is the end of the meeting, and I will adjourn it at 8:54.
Good job. Yay.
Great job.
Great job.
Good job, everyone. And welcome to our new commissioner as well. And at the next meeting, we should have
the fun ride
Duran with us as well. So,
okay.
all right, everyone.
All right,
Good night.
everyone.